Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, be honest with me. Have you ever looked at a photo of yourself and immediately just cringed? Like wondering who on earth that person even is? If you have, trust me, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're exploring a deeply relatable, kind of fascinating topic: why we so often hate how we look in pictures. We're going to break down some brilliant insights from photographer and Professor Won-Jin to uncover the real truth behind the lens and, honestly, completely redefine what it actually means to be photogenic. So let's dive right into this. Why does the camera's image feel so strange? We've all had that jarring moment, right? You see yourself on a digital screen, or maybe you hear a playback of your own voice, and you get this sudden, uncomfortable wave of unfamiliarity. It's wild, but it's a completely universal experience. Think about it. The voice you hear in your own head when you speak almost never matches the recording. Well, as Won-Jin points out, that exact same principle applies to visual recordings of ourselves. Which brings us to our first core concept, the strange unfamiliarity and why we disconnect from our image. Let's explore exactly why that disconnect happens. Part 2. The eye versus the lens, the mechanics of photography. And this brilliantly illustrates the core issue. When we see ourselves in a photograph, the image often totally contradicts the person we've always believed ourselves to be. There's this huge gap between our comfortable internal self-image and the stark external reality the camera catches. To understand this gap, just think about the real world for a second. Look around your environment right now. Your vision is filled with complex depth and space. But more importantly, your eyes and your brain are incredibly selective. They naturally focus only on what actively interests you, constantly filtering out the background noise. Now compare that to a photograph. A photograph is a flat, two-dimensional image fixed on paper or a screen. The camera lens doesn't have a brain to filter things out. It's completely unblinking. It objectively records absolutely everything within its frame, including all those tiny, mundane details we never, ever consciously notice in real life. Knowing how a camera objectively captures reality leads us perfectly into our next section, debunking the photogenic myth, breaking down false assumptions. For decades, we've held on to these rigid, honestly kind of ridiculous, false assumptions about what makes someone look good on camera. People universally assume that having a small face, large double-lidded eyes, or highly conventionally attractive features are the ultimate secrets to being photogenic. Society constantly reinforces the idea that this is what the camera loves. But, according to the source material, this is simply not true. These standardized, magazine-cover traits absolutely do not guarantee a great photo. Being photogenic? It's not just a simple equation of having specific physical features. So the crucial point is understanding what the camera is actually looking at. It's capturing these invisible factors. The final image is profoundly influenced by things you might not even realize are happening. The lens captures your internal attitude toward being photographed in that exact split second. It catches those fleeting, unconscious expressions and little habits that flash across your face. It even records your baseline physical and emotional condition on that specific day. A hidden quiet fatigue that your friends would never notice over lunch, that can become surprisingly visible the second that camera shutter clicks. Just take a moment to absorb this really beautiful observation. Somehow, the camera remembers what words cannot express. When we look back at old portraits of ourselves or our families, we aren't just seeing geometry and faces. We can vividly recognize periods of great happiness or times when life was just weighing heavily on us. The camera possesses this incredibly poetic ability to freeze an unspoken mood or heavy burden, preserving those deeply human states long, long after the actual moment has slipped away. This brings us to a really important dynamic in our explainer: collaboration behind the lens. Who is to blame for a bad photo? When a portrait disappoints us, our immediate instinct is usually to just blame the person holding the camera, right? But portrait photography is, above all else, a collaboration between the photographer and the person being photographed. Sure, an inexperienced photographer might mess up a shot, but actually even the most highly accomplished world-class photographer cannot guarantee a successful portrait if the subject isn't genuinely participating in the process. You are an active participant in how your photo turns out. Now, what's really interesting about this is the profound tension that emerges after the photo session is over. It's incredibly common for the photographer and the model to prefer entirely different photographs from the exact same shoot. What the subject prefers is usually based on their personal taste, a carefully curated, idealized image of themselves. Yet, paradoxically, the photo they like best is often the least representative of who they truly are. On the flip side, what a powerful portrait actually requires is a faithful, honest revelation of that person's true individuality. And that leads directly to this brilliant insight. A successful portrait is one that faithfully reveals the subject's individuality. It is not about achieving some flawless, airbrushed standard of conventional beauty. A truly successful image is one that unabashedly looks like you. Your individuality, your unique quirks, your authentic expressions, that is the absolute hallmark of a great photo, way more than any idealized standard of perfection you might be striving for. Which leads us to our final core concept, embracing your authentic self, the true photogenic quality. Let's see how this all builds together. We have to move away from measuring ourselves against a rigid, standardized metric. True photogenic quality lies in having the quiet confidence to reveal your own distinctive character to the world. It is emphatically not about disguising yourself to resemble some glamorous celebrity you saw on a screen or a magazine cover. When you have the bravery to just be yourself in front of the lens, that raw, unedited authenticity is exactly what makes a portrait come vividly alive. But there is a trap we often fall into here. It's the danger of mirrors. We spend so much time looking into mirrors, scrutinizing our angles, that we gradually erase the ordinary, beautiful, everyday image of ourselves from our own memory. We replace it with this highly idealized version that actually resembles someone else entirely. And by doing this, we sacrifice our unique individuality in pursuit of a fake, standardized image of what it means to be photogenic. We end up becoming, tragically, more like standardized, lifeless dolls than our actual breathing selves. So, I want to leave you with a final lingering question to reflect on. Are you willing to drop the disguise and show the lens who you truly are? The next time you step in front of a camera, remember that the most captivating thing you can offer isn't a practiced pose or a perfect angle, it's your authentic self. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I challenge you to fundamentally rethink how you present yourself, not just to the camera, but to the world.